to Ulrich Schurr, who I hope is in the audience already.
I'm here.
Oh, great. Wonderful, Ulrich. Then if there are no questions or comments straight away, I think we can straight switch over to your welcome address and information about various programs in Europe and worldwide. So you may all know that Ulrich Schurr is the primary chairperson of the board of IPPN. He is the coordinator of ACCESS, the European platform of plant phenotyping infrastructures. He has been the coordinator of DPPN and EPPN, and is also the coordinator on and the first primary chair of the EPPN e.V., the consortium that will use the facilities built up in Germany. So he is the very dedicated person in that field. And Uli, you're welcome to hand over or take over and share your screen.
Thanks very much, Thomas. Thanks very much for the very warm welcome. I think you have to close the sharing of your screen before I can do that.
You would simply throw me out, but I will do so.
Good. Okay. Thanks a lot. I'll try to bring up my screen now. I hope that you can see the slides now. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, so thanks very much for the very warm welcome, and very sorry that I cannot be with you today. There have been very urgent things which I have to do actually today and tomorrow. But I was very much willing to do the greetings and the information about ACCESS and DPPN-ACCESS as Thomas asked me to do so. So obviously we are very keen in, I would actually be very keen in being with you, because obviously the face-to-face interactions we were really missing over the last 2 years, but we'll definitely see in other concepts again. So let me start by the overall big picture. So global challenges, and that we all are requiring for sustainable agriculture. There are a lot of activities going on at the moment at the European level. With the Green Deal, which has a lot of activities which are linked to essentially improving plant qualities and plant quantities. The farm to fork strategy is also an aspect which is very strongly asking for quantitative data on plants, and therefore sustainable agriculture as a whole, including also agroecology aspects, are still very much on the agenda to improve plant performance, not only with respect to yield, but also with the ecological aspects increasingly coming in, and the production itself. So this is looking into quantity, into quality of plant biomass and the production as a whole. Novel characteristics are increasingly important with respect to new crops. There's an increasing number of crops which people are interested in. Stressful environments are very important. We had already in the last days, already in Germany, we are again a pretty dry period, and this is also taking place all over the place. So yielding in stressful environments, also yielding quality in stressful environments, is extremely important. Sustainable production intensification in the wider context of agroecology aspects also is a topic which is strongly requested. And lowering the environmental footprint as an overall target is very important. So essentially, with all these aspects which are targets for where plant phenotyping, plant performance plays a major role, they are getting even more important, especially also through the recent developments with respect to the Ukraine and the opportunity and the difficulties of producing and getting grains out of Russia and the Ukraine. So this is it's getting even more important than that we had in the past. So the growing demand is there with a wide range of different crops and conditions. multidisciplinary approaches are required, and the expertise which is required is not only taking data, but also analyzing the pipelines, developing standard operation procedures, which are also standardized and which can be, which require intercomparison. Modeling is very important, so integration into the wider modeling aspect, but also data reusability is getting increasingly on plant phenotypes is getting increasingly important, because we don't want to permanently repeat the same kind of phenotyping experiments. We can't actually. A specialized infrastructure, and we come to that in a minute, is very key for phenotyping, but it's not the only aspect how phenotyping happen actually in these kind of phenotyping hubs, which are organized within IPPN. Plant characterization is very important in that context, but also the simulation of the environment. You will see excellent examples of that during your tour in the IPK. What kind of opportunities and possibilities are there today to do environmental simulation in-house in order to get qualitative information and really qualitatively high information, good information from phenotyping in-house. And I'm pretty sure that there will be a lot of discussions in the next 2 days about the opportunities of closed environment opportunities for detecting and exploring into future conditions outside. Altogether, obviously, phenotyping is not done for the sake of phenotyping, but we do it in the context of both breeding and precision farming. And increasingly, what we observe is that there's a more and more integration between the breeding phenotyping for breeding and the breeding phenotyping for precision farming, because technology-wise, it's getting more and more similar. Technologies get cross-talking, and there are many opportunities to actually bring things together, which also opens up an opportunity that breeders and crop management gets closer, which I think will be a very important issue for the future in developing a sustainable agriculture. We know that there have been a number of national platforms, national infrastructures. Thomas already mentioned DPPN, our German plant phenotyping network, which we started some years ago, which is now, which started as a project, which is now transformed into a legal entity with the IPPN e.V. and which is running the infrastructures and organizing the infrastructures. There are many others, and you see some of them on this slide, which are in different shape and different perspectives, but nevertheless, the national infrastructures are at the core and heart of the plant phenotyping infrastructures, which provide also the opportunity to use them in an access mode, develop new technologies, but also spin out technologies to users which are not sitting in these hubs. We had also regional projects. Most of them at the moment actually are not active anymore. We had a cost action. There were IPPN 2020, the ACCESS projects, which I also come back to in a minute, but there are new opportunities coming up for that. There are regional projects also in other continents, like in North America or in China or in South America. There's so this kind of regional interactions and networks. And last but not least, and that was the reason why we set all these kind of national activities, the fragmented activities, specifically in Europe, are not the final goal. Therefore, we aim for a longer term and stable organization. And that's the reason why we started the process for EMPhASIS. EMPhASIS is listed on the S3 roadmap since 2016 now, so already 6 years. EMPhASIS is aiming as an integrating and operating a pan-European infrastructure, which is actually integrating most of the national platforms into a European mechanism as a kind of hub and spoke process, where EMPhASIS itself will not own these infrastructures, but EMPhASIS will coordinate and EMPhASIS will bring things together. The mission of EMPhASIS as a whole is to facilitate plant phenotyping to analyze genotype performance in diverse environments and quantify the diversity of traits. So that's the what. And how do we do this? We are developing infrastructures and provide access to facilities, service, and resources. And this is a wide range of different resources which we have now available these days. we tried to develop this integrated European infrastructure and instrument facilities, but also link the data acquisition at a European level. I mentioned the data reuse system before, as well as the modeling activities, which are very important because we cannot measure everything. We also need to develop modeling, which helps us to do the right phenotyping and the proper phenotyping processes, and therefore develop, also evaluate and share knowledge and about novel technologies. ECCESS is working in 3 different domains in the context of synergies. If the different countries are utilizing and developing infrastructure, the investments are quite high, and therefore it's very important also to get synergies between investments in different countries in Europe. Data management is also integrating across different activity, across the different national platforms, and reuse and sharing of SOPs is very important, as well as the education and training of users, as well as infrastructure groups which are running infrastructure. The innovation part is also very important, as you already have some companies in the meeting here. We also some years ago already now opened up the opportunity within IPPN to also bring industry into the group, and they are very active in developing phenotyping in many different dimensions, not only in their immediate activities within their own company, but also beyond. There's a lot of driving and momentum at the moment from industry side. And last but not least, having all this infrastructure is not useful if you don't have access to develop and to use and to translate that access into real practical applications. ECCESS itself, we have decided to cluster the activities in 5 different major parts where infrastructures are provided. This is one on controlled environments and controlled conditions. You will see a lot of that in the next 2 days. But also lean phenotyping, lean field phenotyping. This is pretty close to what the breeder and the agriculture actually needs. The intensive field sites are highly equipped sites, which are providing new opportunities, also with environment simulation in the field. And then you see the 2 parts, which are data and computational services, which are looking into fair data, distribution of data, and proper acquisition of data, as well as the modeling part, which I already described as a very important tool and interpretate for designing experiments, phenotyping experiments, as well as interpreting them. Controlled environments, we have a large number of greenhouses. Simulation monitoring of environment is very important. The high level of automation is pretty unique in that context. There is a deep phenotyping activity included as well, which means on the one hand robots, but also tomographic systems. And you will also probably see in the next 2 days quite some extreme examples, nice examples from within IPK, but also from the very nice program which people will present. And typically the throughput here is between 100 to 1,000 plants. We have quite a lot of installations. This is probably not the last number which you can see here, but you can see on the ECCESS website, you can see all these different infrastructures which are shared across Europe. Lean field, as I mentioned, has the target to go as close as possible to the user's perspective. It's field sites with environmental monitoring. There is pretty basic trade phenotyping equipment out there, potentially ground-based and airborne sensing systems are there. You can see them already on the screen here, some drones or some pushback activities which can be used. And it's a network of fields which we are trying to establish, and this is rapidly increasing, which would also be an opportunity which is generated by ECCESS to get this information and this link between different phenotyping fields. Intensive field sites, on the other hand, have very detailed environmental monitoring or even environmental simulation. You see some of the highly equipped sites on the screen here. This generates high quality and detailed measurements. And nevertheless, this is still a very large number of field sites across Europe, which deliver different impacts and different resources for data in different dimensions, in many different dimensions of plant environment interaction. Modeling is also a wide field, and we decided to put this into the context of ECCESS and plant phenotyping through virtual platforms. There are quite different number of types of models, crop models, functional structure plant models, which are at different scales, and they need to be integrated or interfacing with phenotyping installations in order to make use of either the installations as well as the interpretation of the data which are in there. And last but not least, plant infrastructure, data infrastructures and computational services are very important. We all follow the findable, accessible, interoperational, reusable approach. Hopefully, all the data which we generate are brought into that dimension. This has been shown in recent analysis that this is not always the case, as we know. But during the last years, there has been significant progress in providing access to data, which is generated by a more standardized and more equal and good phenotyping practice. There are local installations for that, and ECCESS will and does already bring together these on the integrated information system, which is providing access for users as well as for in the platforms, but as well as for secondary users of data which are stored into these databases. The road into the phenotyping into the structure of ECCESS started, as I said, in 2016. We started the prep phase. There was we are now in the implementation phase, the intermediate phase. This is actually not 22, but it's a little bit longer, also delayed through to the fact that there have been delays during the Corona crisis. But we are pretty sure that we can go on for the operational phase. There is already access to the different platforms, and already the platforms provide quite a bit of infrastructure support to scientists across Europe. The service portfolio will be quite wide, and there's a number of different services which are presently under testing in pilot services. Some of them have been finished, some of them are still continuing. Field pilots, modeling pilots, data pilots, which is very closely linked to the EPPN 2020 project, or was linked to the EPPN 2020 project. There's support of coordination activities. We also had an innovation pilot which looks into the translation of activities inside the activities towards the user and especially also the commercial user. Harmonization was, I think, a very important, probably under regarded pilot, which was also led by Rick, to see how different activities can be homogenized between different installations. And last but not least, training. There was obviously during the last 2 years not too much of that, but training is a very important element of the future service portfolio of ECCESS, because we think it's very important to not only keep the information inside the platforms, but also distribute them among users. Access, at the moment, there have been 2 major projects on that, EPPN into 2015 and EPPN 2020. They just, both of them have finished. EPPN 2020, EPPN already in 2015, EPPN 2020 finished in 2022 now, just recently. So at the moment there is, none of these is practically active at the moment, but we have started to apply for new projects in that context, and there will be more calls, and we're pretty sure that we are sure that there will be more opportunities to provide access into the European plant phenotyping platforms. One thing which I also want to strengthen, especially as hopefully some of the participants are also from Germany, there is a structure now, a DPPN-ACCESS project, which is funded by the German Science Ministry, which is essentially the same process like we have decided over the last years in the EPPNs. The application deadline for that is the 20th of June, so still a little bit to go. And provides access to a wide range of phenotyping installations, which are within the DPPN partners in Jülich, in Gadersleben, and in Munich. And this is a open possibility where you can see how these infrastructures can be used. So this is an opportunity for, in this specific case, only Germans, which has not been possible before, but take the opportunity and please apply within the DPPN-ACCESS calls. Last but not least, I want to shortly come to the aspect of International Plant Phenotyping Network. Thomas already mentioned the IPPN, and this is a workshop which has been supported and is supported from IPPN and run by one of the working groups of IPPN. IPPN aims to integrate and promote interactions between the world's plant phenotyping practitioners in academia as well as industry. We try to integrate regional and global fragmented activities into a common understanding, and the working groups in that context are extremely important to really get things done and get information across and exchange between people, to exchange the knowledge, the information, the expertise, which we still have a lot of lack of this kind of exchange going on. Hopefully this workshop today, but I'm very sure today and tomorrow will bring a lot of new expertise and information to all of the participants. Also addressing technology development implementation issues. And we're also looking into the advice of decision makers on state-of-the-art and future opportunities, and how we can also do phenotyping realistically. That's also an aspect which we cover within IPPN. It has been founded in 2015. Today we have quite a number of research organizations. We started recently, some years ago now, for industry members as well. And we now have close to 70 members, between 60 and 70 members. You see that they are distributed across the globe. There definitely needs to be more activities in Africa. This is still a white spot on the map. And we would very much like to see opportunities to also link into Africa, because there's also a lot of opportunities there. As Thomas already mentioned, the Controlled Environment Plant Phenotyping Group is one of the working groups of IPPN. We have a number of them, and you see them here, from advanced sensor applications to affordable, so plant phenotyping, which is using less expensive equipment, field phenotyping, forest phenotyping, a specific activity which looks into forests as a whole, from the breeding as well as from a management perspective. Imaging is a central tool. Root and seed phenotyping, which are addressing the specific issues which are linked to these very important stages, but often neglected stages or organs in phenotyping domains. And last but not least, I also want to invite you, and you will probably see during several of the meeting talks, the invitation to the IPPS 2020 in Wageningen. The IPPS 2020 is, or the IPPS in general, the Plant Phenotyping Symposia, is a biannual activity which the IPPN organizes with local organizers. We also usually have our general assemblies during these meetings and decide on next targets and next locations where the IPPS takes place. We'll have a lot of sessions on phenotyping, on using phenotyping and phenotyping technologies, but I'm pretty sure that René and Rick will also inform you more about the IPPS in details. And with that, I would like to come to an end, and thank you for coming. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. I really would have loved to be with you after all this long time without having contact, but it was just not possible for other urgent matters which are keeping me here at the moment. So thanks very much, and I wish you a very, very pleasant 2 days in Gadersleben, obviously then later on also in Wageningen during the IPPS, and hopefully we'll see us the latest in Wageningen in October. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Uli, for this very nice and broad overview about IPPN, emphasis, DPPN, and finally also your hint towards the IPPS, the symposium. I think Rick had a comment. Would you like to express that directly?
Now, the only tiny comment is at the, yeah, okay.
Right.
It's in the chat. So the IPPS is in end of September.
Yeah. almost close to October.
Very, very, very close. Yeah.
Okay, there is a question by Philip.
Yeah, just an additional comment to the IPPN working groups that Thomas as well did mention earlier this morning. All our working groups are open to the public in terms of participation or taking part in whatsoever events they organize. So you don't have to be an IPPN member in order to participate and to benefit from them. So feel free to get engaged, visit our website and hop on.
All right, are there further comments or questions? Please, online participants, raise your hand and I can see you, or write a comment in the chat. And Uli, I have a question. Emphasis obviously is a European platform. How is that linked to with major overseas activities in Americas or in China or in Australia?
So thanks, Thomas, for the question. So obviously, yes, it's first a European integration activity and focusing on the European community, but obviously there are a number of ways how the link to international activities happens. So one way is obviously through the phenotyping community. So obviously the partners in emphasis as well as the infrastructures are also used and can be used by non-European users. And there's a lot of links happening, for example, through the IPPN to the global activities, also from all the emphasis members which are in the IPPN. A second domain which people usually don't realize is that within S3 there are quite a number of activities which are focusing on international collaboration of research infrastructures. For example, there has been a very strong activity, a funded activity of the European Commission recently, just coming to an end of research infrastructure interactions on a global scale. There was also a specific one with Africa. There was very strong interaction with Australians. So there are different measures where the research infrastructures are interacting. There's also a research infrastructure conference, which also happens every second year, where emphasis also has been presented as interacting also with infrastructures from very different backgrounds, so from physics and from different environments which can be used. So there's a quite wide range of activities within the topic of plant phenotyping where we interact internationally, as well as between infrastructures of different domains.
All right, thank you very much